Hey guys, Chris from ProvoBeast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be replacing the factory head unit on this 2015 Ford Explorer. Now in this install we're going to show you how to remove that factory radio, then we'll head to the bench, we'll show you the parts that we'll need for the install, including the new radio itself, the dash kit, and wiring harness adapters, and we'll come back here to get everything reinstalled. Let's get started. Alright, so here in the car, a couple of things to note before we dive into this install. There's a couple of different audio trim options available within this generation Ford Explorer. We specifically have the factory navigation touchscreen and the SONY amplifier, and so we'll have to use the right parts to retain all those factory features. However, if you have a more basic trim, you don't have SONY, or you have also the smaller 4.3-inch display, that's okay. We can still make those notes and link those specific parts for your audio trim in the description of this video. So first thing we need to do is get these side panels off. I have a little trim panel tool here, and what we're going to do is slowly kind of just work these out. These silver side pieces here, just clips holding it on. I don't want to mar up the dash, so just be careful. Okay. That middle clip is a little more tricky there. Same thing on the other side. Next, you'll have 7mm or 9/32 screws on both sides of the screen. Now, both the climate controls as well as the bezel around the screen should pop out as one piece, along with the vents above it. Now you'll have a harness here on the bottom, just disconnect it. Alright, so we're down to the actual components of the radio. There's going to be 4 screws both on the radio module and 4 screws on the screen itself. Go ahead and push in the tab, unlock everything. This is a swing lock, pushing the middle tab. The big gray swings over, and then it should pop out. There's our screen. Disconnect everything from the lower radio module itself. Pushing the tab, all the harness should come out. So at this point of time, what we can do is now head over to the bench. We're going to show you the new parts that we're going to need for the install. Alright, so here at the bench, now the parts that we're using in today's install, first and foremost, is the radio replacement the customer has chosen for the Explorer. Now, we needed to go with a specific type of radio because it has to be compatible with the install parts that make this installation happen. Now, this specifically is the JVC KWM 695BW, and what makes this one specifically unique in this install is its iDatalink Maestro ready to go, so it's compatible with the install parts needed to retain all our factory features. Additionally adds in like wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and will display all our data information on that radio screen, like heating and air controls, heated and cooled seats, backup camera sensors, gauges, vehicle information, everything like that will be displayed on the screen. This is why we need a radio compatible with these install parts. We need the iDatalink Maestro MFT1. This is both the radio dash bezel as well as the installation wiring kit. Separate pieces that we'll need for this install to complete it. iDatalink Maestro recommends we use a vid1. It's just a video filter for the factory backup camera. We also need the Kenwood. What's interesting about the Kenwood, it's a little wire dongle that goes between this harness and the radio that makes this installation almost completely plug and play. And then finally here, this is where the magic happens. This is iDatalink Maestro MRR module, and this is what's going to control all the data of the vehicle and translates that so it works and is compatible with our new aftermarket radio. This is required when you do an installation kit by iDatalink Maestro. You can use either the MRR or MRR2. Now there's other modules and optional accessories that we're not installing today, like the iDatalink Maestro Mic 1, where it can retain your factory Bluetooth microphone. In this case, we're just going to go with the microphone included with our radio. But you can add that on along with a ton of other accessories, and we can link those in the description, like radar detectors and whatnot. With that being said, the first thing we're going to do is we got to unbox all our harnesses here. Then what we'll do is take this over to the computer and we're going to flash this. We're actually going to plug it in here, download the software, and flash this. If you don't have a computer to flash your module, consider doing the MRR2. The next generation module like this is actually Bluetooth compatible, and you can flash it using their web application. Here at the computer, we went ahead and plugged in our Maestro RR module. You do the same thing with the RR2, same process here, if using a computer to set it up for your vehicle. We've already downloaded the WebLink desktop application, so that's already preloaded on our computer. We've logged in. All we had to do now at this point is plug in our module to flash it. First thing we're going to do is click on Flash by Vehicle. Select our year. Select our make, Ford. Select our model, Explorer. We have the My Ford Touch 8-inch screen with the Sony amplified system. It looks like we only have one steering wheel option, so we'll select the only option there. Now this is depending on what kit you're installing. This is the kit, the MFT1, with this little logo in the top right hand corner, the plug and play version. If you went with an older version, you do the one to the right. And if you're doing the 8-inch direct replacement by JVC or Kenwood, you use the FO1 below, but we're using the MFT1 today. Now we're going to select the radio. We'll just type it in here. KW, oh, it's right here, 695 BW. You will need the serial number off the radio. Next here, we're going to select the only software available. It's the current one here. Lastly, we want to tell this module what accessories we're pairing with it. Now, as mentioned before, this is the mic one if you're retaining the factory Bluetooth microphone. In this case, we're trying to do this more on a budget, so we're not doing the mic one. The nav one would be able to retain the factory GPS antenna if you wanted to keep that, depending on which version and radio you're installing. Sat 1 is also retaining the satellite radio antenna using the Sirius XM add-on module. We're just not doing that today, so we don't need the Sat ones, but we are doing the Vid one. That was included with our kit, so we're going to click on that. And then the Ken 3, there's no image currently, but we do have it at the bench, which makes this install harness plug and play. We'll click on that as well. Hit continue. Third-party accessories, this is where you can tack on radar detectors. We're not doing any of those. This screen shows you what exactly we want to retain with the module and the new radio. And truthfully, in this case, we're going to retain everything. So we're going to keep all those switches on. Lastly here, we're going to actually set what button does what, both on the radio dash bezel, climate controls, as well as the steering wheel. There's some that are already preloaded for us, but we can add additional ones, both single press and hold long press. Okay, so we went through and just basically selected some basic options, both for single press and long press. We'll hit continue. Here's our summary page, everything that we've set up. Once we're ready to go, we'll hit flash. That's it. At the bottom here is our installation guide and our wallet card, and you can also email these to yourself. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and download our installation guide. Looks like this. Now there's a lot of pages to this document, so usually we'll look for Explorer. So there's only one Explorer in this document, which is great. So it looks like our installation guide will start on page 65 for this specific install. So we can print out those specific pages. Well, let's head back to the bench to start assembling our harness. Alright, so we're back here at the bench. Now, this is for our Ford Explorer from this year to this year, and this is the kit that works for us. We unboxed the MFT1. There's going to be much more in this kit than you'll actually need for your install, as it's a universal kit that fits a ton of different Ford vehicles. So don't let this intimidate you, and this shows you exactly what you need and don't need. Now additionally here, let's go ahead and unbox the Vid 1. It has just a couple more dongles in there, a little module. And the Ken one, like mentioned before, is just a plug and play dongle between the radio and this main harness. In your Maestro box, you're going to have the Maestro module. And there may be a few cables you don't use out of this one as well. Again, this will show us exactly all we need. Here it shows us how to disassemble the dash, but number 4 and 5, depending on if there's elements in the dash that we need to relocate or trim if needed, it's going to show us there. We have to relocate the steering wheel module if required, and cut or bend metal if required. We'll cross that bridge once we go to final installation. On the back side here, page 4, shows you what brackets we need. Now our kit comes with 2 sets of these metal brackets here. In our application, it says we only need set number 1, which is this with the R1 and the L1. It says we do not need set number 2, so we'll throw these in the recycling. Page number 3 shows us basically all our connections here. Page number 6 is really what's most important, which will show you how all the connections are made. So now, first thing we're going to do is grab our dongle. And again, it's plug and play. Just like that. And that goes right into the radio. Now, this blue-yellow wire is specifically for steering wheel volume controls, but in our application here today, that's already being done through data of the harness, so this little dongle won't be needed. Okay, step number 2 is whether we have the amplifier or non-amplifier here. Now in this case we do have that SONY logo, so we do have the OEM amplifier. What we need to do is unplug the white and the black connectors here. And it looks like we're not using these specific connectors in this application. These won't go together. And instead it appears that there are harnesses that are included in the box for the RCA cables for this specific year. So what we're going to do is plug those in. Okay, just like that. Okay, step number 3 is all our secondary connections here at the other end of our harness. So we're doing the backup camera. So it looks like this other harness here, harness D, we'll start with that yellow connection first. That basically pulls in the feed. Now we're not doing the mic 1, so we don't need the orange connection. But it looks like we also need to make the black connection here. And then shows we also need the 24-pin harness here. Harness A. Do have that secondary harness. We'll plug that in. That looks like that signal for our factory subwoofer. Alright, so that finishes up step 3. Then it shows a little amp turn on, not connected unless you're doing an aftermarket amplifier. Step 4 shows all the connections to the Maestro module. It looks like first thing we're going to do is our large 18-pin harness. Then we're going to do our green 10-pin harness. Then we're going to do our 3-pin harness or power harness. Now additionally here on the right hand side it shows you the 2 cables that are included with the RR module in this little bag here. Looks like we need the data cable and an audio cable out of this one. So the cable we don't need is the one that has the steering wheel control blue-yellow wire on here. So we'll go ahead and plug those into the modules as well. First one is the 4-pin data harness, only goes in one spot. And then our 3-pin audio harness, which oftentimes is the alerts when backing up if you have rear sensors or whatnot. That'll go into the 3-pin harness port. And then those other ends of this harness will connect to the radio. Okay, now what's not pictured in this is our video filter. It's actually pretty easy to add. It's not diagrammed here, but that's okay because we'll show you how it connects into this. So the video harness basically has an input and an output. So the output is what connects into the radio, and then the input is what is being fed the signal, like that. This has a little T-harness that goes in line for the power. Just disconnect the power out of the RR module, connect that harness into our T-harness, and then that T-harness connects back into the module. That's going to pull power and ground for our video filter. And lastly here, the input of that video filter will connect into the other end. Okay, and that'll go to the video input on the back of the radio. It looks like a mess. We like to clean our harness up with a little bit of zip ties and lume it up with some high temperature test tape. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then once our harness is all prepped, ready to go, we'll turn our attention over to assembling the dash kit brackets on our new radio. Alright, so we went ahead and just loomed up our harness a little bit here. This end will plug into our Ford Explorer factory harnesses. And then we have all these little ends with backup camera input as well as our sub input. We'll go to the RCAs. We got our 4-pin data harness, our 3-pin audio harness, and our main harness here. So a couple of different connections that are actually going into this application. A lot will connect to the radio. That's okay because it's all set up and ready to go for that application. So that's really about it for this. This is all pre-programmed. It's plug and play at this point. So we're going to set this mess off to the side. Next here, we need to pull the brackets off the OEM screen. Now, these brackets here are going to be reutilized for our new brackets. These are T20 Torx screws. Remove them. Okay, we are done with the OEM radio and the brackets themselves off this. We're done with this. At this point in time, we can put these off to the side. Now, we're going to grab our right bracket here and the right side bracket that came off the OEM screen. Using the same hardware, we're going to get those mounted up into the brackets. Alright, so we got our left and right side brackets done. Now, what we're going to do is get these mounted up on the side using the screws supplied with the radio, our new aftermarket radio. What we'll also need to do is put on this trim piece just to make sure the depth of the screen fits well within the opening of the actual trim piece. Okay, so we got everything mounted up into the radio bracket. All our gaps are nice and even. It's looking really, really nice. We're actually done with this. Now, the last things that we can't do specifically at the bench would be prepping our Bluetooth mic. We have to do this in the car. Since we're not doing the mic one, we got to install the mic that's included with the radio. We'd like to put this on top of the A-pillar here and run it through the dash. That'll connect to the back of the radio. We also have a GPS antenna specifically for this radio. This helps with location accuracy when using like CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. So we'll install that as well. And because the factory USBs on this Ford Explorer are on a hub system, we can't retain a hub with our new radio. So they actually supply a whole new bezel. You'll go see which one fits here. And whether you use the Type C or Type A or both, you'll put them in here and this will go in its factory spot. We didn't need this harness, so we'll set that off to the side. That's about it here at the bench. So let's go ahead and swap in our USB port. We're going to install off camera our Bluetooth mic just in a location that we like the most. Then we'll see us back in the car to install our radio and do our final reinstallation. Alright, so we're back here and the Explorer ready to start doing final reassembly. Now fortunately, because of the type of radio we're installing, it's a shallow mount radio. We don't have to relocate any modules there, do any trimming. It actually fits perfectly. Additionally, here off camera, we installed our Bluetooth mic just on the A-pillar. Ran it down the A-pillar, fished it through the dash, and it comes out here. Along with our GPS antenna, we put that on top of the dash. In the end, you want that GPS antenna as far out into the sky as possible. So we got those two ran into the dash. Additionally here, we popped out our USB. Now we did that off camera, but here's an animation of how we did that. We just used the pick tool, popped that out. Disconnected the factory USB, then installed our new USB panel into that same spot with the Type A. We didn't use the Type C connection, and we fished that up into the dash, and here that is as well, ready to go. If your radio had a Type C input, you could use that, or if it had a Type A and a Type C, you could use both. So it really just depends on your install and the radio you're installing. With all that now prepared and done, first thing we can do is grab our main harness adapter here. Now there's a lot of connections and we're going to spend all the time needed to make sure we don't miss any here. First big connection, we're going to do the swing lock, just like that. Next connections, the ones that went to the radio module, connect both of those in. Our kit came with an AM/FM antenna. There are couple of antennas usually connected. The black one here is the one that we use for AM/FM. Now next would be the task to making all the connections at the radio itself. We'll start with our main radio module connection. Front left is white. Front right is gray. Rear left is green. And rear right is purple. Next here we're going to do our backup camera input. And then lastly, there's that red RCA, which is our subwoofer connection. Next, we need our data connections. So that 4-pin data harness goes into the iDatalink Maestro input. Then our iDatalink Maestro kind of looks like an aux, called iDatalink IF. Then lastly here, we need to connect our Bluetooth mic and GPS antenna. Then lastly here, we need to connect our AM and FM antenna. Alright, so with all our connections made, just double check everything here. Once we confirm it's all good, next thing we need to do is slowly start tucking everything back into the dash. Now there's no module that's going below, so we're just going to add the screws back in. Grab our lower bezel, plug it back in. Okay, so before we snap everything back in and put the final screws in, let's do a test. Alright, so everything's working just as it should, so we're going to finish snapping everything back in and adding our last screws. So with the radio all booted up here, that's what it looks like. That's our home screen. And again, this is a great entry-level wireless CarPlay radio that works super well with the iDatalink Maestro kit. Now what makes this special is how snappy the volume is. You can use your main volume and it works up there. Same thing with the steering wheel volume controls also work as well. Now that's super nice. If you do hit the climate control button there, what that's going to do is bring up the climate screen, and you can see all that corresponding with the buttons that I'm doing down below. Now because it's also iDatalink Maestro, besides all our climate controls that we retained here, we also have great functionality like gauges. You can see all the gauges there. See vehicle information with all the doors open and tire pressure. And of course, you got wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Now down below, here is our USB panel that we just popped in. We didn't use USB-C, so we just put a little blank in there. And that's it. Now our GPS antenna is here, as well as our Bluetooth mic is up here. Backup camera, put it in reverse. There we go. Pull it out of reverse. Just like so. So that's about it for this install here. This works fantastic. It's just a really nice upgrade. Now we did go from an 8-inch to a 7-inch. There's not a huge visible difference, but if you wanted an 8-inch, you'd go direct replacement. We can link those parts and those type of videos in the description for you. Or if you want to go big, you could do a 10-inch, depending on the dash design that you have, whether you use the JVC 10.1-inch display through this kit that we're using today, or the direct replacement kit that's also offered from iDatalink Maestro. So nonetheless, we can link all those parts in the description along with anything else that we recommend for your install at home. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.